This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Wednesday, August 4th. Rich Pope here for Orlando Sentinel Now. Today we have Mike Lafferty, Matt Palm, Trevor Frazier. Good topics they're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about AC units. Shortage going on right now, so if yours breaks, might have some trouble finding a replacement. Also, COVID in the state, we'll touch on that. And news about arts groups here. Good news for them. They're getting a boost financially. But we're going to start here with Mike Lafferty. We're going to talk about COVID. An editorial went out asking the governor to be a little less divisive about this and get things under control. What's happening, Mike?
Florida is in a crisis right now, a COVID crisis. We're leading the way in hospitalizations, cases, deaths, and it's bad. The hospitals are filling up. In some hospitals, they're having to park patients in hallways because they're out of room. It's bad, but you wouldn't know that from listening to the governor of the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis has been pretty much spending his time running around the state, visiting restaurants and criticizing mask mandates and saying that Florida's not going to have any mask mandates. It's not going to have any lockdowns, which we know that already. Thanks for reminding us, but we know that already. What he's not doing is going to hospitals and figuring out what's the problem. What does the state need to do to stem this tide of COVID that's washing over us right now?
Right, and it seems like this editorial even gets to the point of, like, let's call a spade a spade. It's the unvaccinated that are getting sick right now, and it's get the word out.
Well, they are. We understand the reality that the governor is not disposed to making people wear masks. He's not disposed to closing anything down. We understand that's where he's coming from philosophically, but there's nothing that stops him from using this influential bully pulpit that he has to go out and sell vaccinations to people. And he's just not doing that. It's pretty alarming. We don't understand why he's so hesitant. I suppose there could be a political explanation for why he's hesitant to speak to the vaccine hesitance.
Yeah, the tricky thing, though, Mike, as I think many of us all know, and we probably have experienced this with friends and families, those that want it have it, those that don't. And it's almost hard to convince them otherwise.
It is hard, but being a governor of the state of Florida is not an easy job. It's a hard job, especially during a pandemic. And the fact that it's maybe difficult to persuade some people to do what they need to do and go get vaccinated so we can get beyond this thing is no excuse for not doing it. The governor fancies himself a persuasive person. Great, go do that. Go out and talk to your people. Tell them to get vaccinated. It's not that hard. He did it pretty well with the senior population when the vaccines first came out. He was going from place to place to place, promoting them for seniors. Well, the hospitals are now seeing younger people being admitted with COVID, and they're experiencing serious illnesses. Well, go talk to those groups now. It's just inexplicable why the governor won't do something about this.
All right. Yeah. Alarming news there. You can read about the editorial right now on OrlandoSentinel.com. Thanks, Mike. Moving forward here to Matt Palm. And Matt, arts groups getting a much needed boost. Tell us about this grant.
Well, it's great news for arts groups. It's been long delayed, but the money is finally coming in. This all comes from federal money, some of the federal COVID money to help battered industries, to help America get back on its feet. It's called the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, and it's specifically designed for people whose business was affected by the shutdown, by the closing of venues. And of course, theaters, concert halls, nightclubs, all these places that feature live entertainment were some of the first places in the country who had to shut their doors and stop taking in money, and some of the last to open. We still have some that have not really fully reopened. So about $57 million I have estimated by adding up various spreadsheets from the government are coming into Central Florida. And they're helping everyone from, our big marquee places like the Dr. Phillips Center downtown to smaller theaters, nightclubs, even some tourist attractions were able to qualify for money. And it's just, it's been described to me as everything from a huge relief to, a lifesaver, a lifeline. to a surreal feeling of knowing that there was some hope now that these businesses could survive. I can't underestimate the relief in the voices of the people I spoke to for this article that this program was established and this money is coming in to help them.
Yeah, interesting is the grants are based on lost revenue. And as your article points out, it gives us a glimpse of how important they are to this area in the economy.
The grant amount is actually based on 45% of a group's revenue in 2019, up to a maximum of 10 million. So you can sort of, I mean, for $57 million then, well, that tells you that and not every group, qualifies or applies, but just even that small segment, we're talking well over than $100 million that they would normally be, have money churning through our economy over. The Dr. Phillips Center was our only local organization that qualified for the maximum. They got $10 million, which of course is a huge amount to help them.
You talk about the diversity of this as far as big and small, but then, as you mentioned before, some didn't get the funds. What was that? Like, it seems like these groups are going to be really floundering.
Well, I keep talking about criteria, and there are very specific criteria. You had to apply in a specific category, like if you were a museum, if you were a talent representative, which are the companies who assemble touring groups, hire musicians for specific gigs, like maybe Christmas caroling at special events of the holidays. So and each of those categories had its own specific standards that had to be met, and some of them seem a little strange. I mean, I understand they're to prevent sort of fly-by-night operations of trying to apply in a category they don't belong or that sort of thing. But for example, movie theaters had to have fixed seating in their venue as one of the criterion. So, to make sure you couldn't just set up some folding chairs and pretend you were a movie theater. But the weird thing was there didn't seem to be any exceptions. So, for example, the Enzian Theater in Maitland, a perfectly legitimate business that has been around for decades, does not have fixed seating. That's one of the part of the charm of the Enzian is they have the couches and the chairs and the tables and they can rearrange. But because there was no fixed seating there, they did not qualify for any assistance. One of their representatives said to me, it was a real shame. We could really, really have used that money as, and again, another business that was closed for an extended period of time.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. As far as the funds go, how can they use them? Can they use them for anything when they do get this grant?
No, there are specific uses, and they are not real flashy uses. A lot of it is for administrative costs, for marketing for their reopening. It's sort of just basic operating type expenses that have to be paid regardless of whether you're presenting shows or not. For the most part, there is some leeway of using it to prepare for new performances, as long as that isn't the main use of the money. So if you were just a little bit short on getting your next show up and running at this point, and you had you could use a small amount of it to help with that maybe, but it's very specific. It's not like you can go out and build a new amphitheater or do anything real dramatic with it. It's just stabilization money for the most part to help make up for this revenue to keep the operation running.
All right, Matt. Well, good news there. You can read about his article right now on OrlandoSentinel.com. We're going to go here to Trevor Frazier. And Trevor, I'll tell you what, Florida summers can be brutal. And if your AC goes out, it's a curse. And right now, it seems like there's a shortage. So it could be really hard on you right now.
Yeah, it doesn't just seem like there's a shortage. There's a shortage. Along with the myriad other shortages that have plagued us since the beginning of COVID, we have now found that ACs are in this same category. But it's again, it is a cascading of different reasons why. It starts with, of course, when COVID first hit, a number of manufacturing plants shut down, and of course that delayed things. But then we had in February, we had that big winter freeze in Texas. There was a snow that took out an air conditioning plant, a Trane air conditioning plant in Texas. We also, of course, then started having the microchip shortage. Of course, we need microchips for thermostats and a number of other electronic parts that go in ACs. And then, of course, there was the giant heat wave that hit the Pacific Northwest, and all of a sudden, people who have never bought air conditioners before suddenly needed air conditioners. And so it's been a lot of things. It's been a lot of things hitting at once that brought us to this air conditioner shortage. But the long and short of it is, yes, if you are out for a new air conditioner, if your air conditioner breaks and they tell you have to get a new one, they're going to be telling you probably that you have to wait.
Yeah, this is unfortunate too. And I also found this really fascinating in your story. Another thing is people working at home. It's almost like they can't tolerate it. It used to be you could just let it go if you were going into your workplace.
Sure. Yeah, no, that was another reason that sort of demand spiked for air conditioners last year. A lot of people got sent to work from home. And of course, if your air conditioner was broken, or maybe it wasn't even broken, but it just wasn't up to snuff, couldn't keep up with the hot part of the day, a lot of times people wouldn't do anything about that because they're at work, from the cool part of the morning until the evening. They come back, they say, well, it's cool enough in the house right now. I don't want to spend $1,000 fixing my air conditioner. I'll just let it go. But all of a sudden, I have to work at home, and now there's no way that I'm letting that broken air conditioner dictate what the temperature is in this house.
I assume there's like an uptick during summertime in general. How is this one different?
I spoke to several HVAC companies that said that last year they didn't have a problem with the shortage, even though the plants were shut down when the summer came around, because most of them buy ahead. Most of the companies buy units for the next summer, the previous year, so they had the units on them. The difference is that, of course, it's been harder to get those units to sort of restock throughout this past year. And then also, of course, we've got more people working from home, heat waves in different parts of the country, so on and so forth. So now we're feeling it. Now we're actually seeing the effects of this. I talked to one person who said that, a wait can be anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. I talked to someone else who said that for certain parts, specialized parts and so on, they were like, the wait can be anywhere from a couple weeks to 6 months. And they said that there were places that they called, and those places have said that they will try and get out orders within 6 months, but they cannot guarantee even that time frame. So it's one of these situations where we don't know what the end of this is. We have no idea. No one had any picture of when this is better and when this is together and so on. All we know is that for right now, there is a bit of a wait for AC parts and new AC units. Now, mind you, you might get lucky. You might get a company that still has some AC units. A few of them said, oh, no, we still have some in the warehouse and so on and so forth. But, that's just a matter of calling around and figuring it out.
All right. Well, you can read his story right now on OrlandoSentinel.com. And Trevor, I have to say, man, our AC went down this month, and I can feel the pain. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't know how people lived in Florida before AC. I really don't.
I'm weirded out that we decided to do it, that anyone just came down here and went, nah, this is fine. I'll just make this work.
All right. Well, we'll push pause for today. Appreciate you being here with us. We'll be back at noon tomorrow. Until next time, I'm Rich, Trevor, Mike, and Matt. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on OrlandoSentinel.com.